criticizing government's debt management strategy for financial year 2021-2022 for not considering strategic and sustainable repayment interventions. Uganda's total public debt hit a record of 65.82 trillion Uganda shillings as of December 2020, up from 49 trillion shillings in 2019, with a 16.82 trillion increment due to the increased government borrowing. Mark Wadulo with the report.
As at December 2020, Uganda's debt to GDP ratio stood at 49% and is projected to hit the 50% threshold by the next financial year starting 1st July 2021. UDN is therefore concerned that Uganda's debt is now growing at a much higher rate than the economic growth.
Anyone, of course, would be concerned about this rapid debt growth against a GDP of $35 billion in 2020, and of course the missed middle income status targets in 2017 at first, and then of course in 2020. The country must deal with key binding constraints, the runaway corruption, execution issues, and also look at new strategies to sustainably manage our debt as a country.
While embezzlement and a lack of holistic accountability for public resources is deterring economic growth, civil society argues that government has in the recent financial year sustained some wasteful public expenditure allocations coupled with high debt repayment proportions against a meager resource envelope.
And you are parting with about 12 trillion shillings. Your own domestic revenues are about 20 trillion. So of 20 trillion, you are removing over 12 trillion for purposes of debt repayment. I think that's not good mathematics, definitely it's ugly.
They assert that government ought to be more aggressive against runaway corruption and time cost overruns in public investment projects if it is to manage the surging debt burden. Take, for example, the Kampala Northern Bypass project.
This project commenced in 2004, but it continues to undermine grossly Uganda's GDP growth, because we see it is still incomplete since 2004, and yet it should have by this time contributed to the debt expansion, and economic opportunities foregone, because we continue to spend on this project even when it was supposed to have been completed some time back.
Uganda's total public debt surged to 65.82 trillion Ugandan shillings as at December 2020, a 35% rise from a year earlier, fueled by fresh borrowing to cover revenue shortfalls as measures taken to combat the coronavirus, which stifled tax collections. Wadulo Makanold, UBC News.
Uganda County